Hi, everybody. Welcome to Am I the Asshole podcast. I'm Danny Vega, joined by Sarah Levine. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
We're still in the Corona times, folks. There is somewhat of a timeline. We're hoping maybe we can start recording IRL. What a concept. What'd you say, Sarah? End of August?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. We'll see what happens, people. But in the interim, despite the fact that we are not in IRL, we got one heck of an ep for you
We're not in
today.
real life.
This is not real. It's all fake. I'm actually a robot. The real Danny Vega is dead.
R.I.P.
RIP. AITA for demanding my boyfriend's best mate leave his house after he called my son a cum pet. Isn't that charming? But first, AITA for taking back the beer I bought for a party from which I was uninvited by you, irrational offer. Again, I gotta throw
Nailed
out
it.
hats off. They're killing it with these like weird combinations of nouns, usernames.
Well, this is relative to the situation, but then I'm like, if you're gonna make your username irrational offer, then you don't even need to be here on AITA. But I'm getting ahead of things.
I am a 19-year-old man, and the people calling me an asshole are 18-year-old men and women. I don't think anyone's ever set it up that way. On
Nope.
Thursday, a person I had a major crush on in high school, but who rejected me, messaged me out of the blue. She never contacted me without my contacting her first, and at one point I realized she had me blocked on social media, and so I found it odd that she was suddenly being friendly. After sending a couple of greetings, questions about how I've been, she said that she was going to have some people over and want to know if I would get the beer. The drinking age where we are is 19, and she and the people who were going to chill were all 18. The liquor stores in my area all carded. I thought it was silly that my being a month older meant I could buy liquor and they couldn't, and so I said I would love to go. She said, "Thanks, I'll pick you up at 7." 7 o'clock rolled around and she texted me to say she was in front of my house. I went out dressed and ready to chill with some people, and she drove me to the liquor store. When we got there, I asked what beer she wanted me to get, and she told me to get Budweiser. I hid my disappointment as well as I could, but it was her party, so I went in and bought 2 cases of 24. I got back in the car and said, "Let's party," and she was eerily quiet. I noticed that she wasn't driving toward her neighborhood, but rather back toward mine. I thought she had moved or something, but didn't want to press the issue. When she turned down my street, I finally figured out she was being purposely vague about the invitation because she wanted me to get the beer, but she wanted to wait out when she told me I wasn't actually invited in the first place. She stopped in front of my house, leaned over, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Thanks," in her best voice. I deadpanned her and asked when she was going to tell me I wasn't invited. She feigned surprise and said she never intended to invite me in the first place. I sat in silence for a long, awkward minute, picked up the beer, and walked toward my front door. She got out of her car and frantically tried to reinvite me to the party, but I told her that what she did was the most humiliating thing that ever happened to me. I opened my front door, slammed it a bit too hard, and came back to my room. Now I'm sitting here drinking absolutely unpalatable piss water, and I have text messages from all of her friends and her asking me why I'm being such a dick. I don't think I'm the asshole for reacting the way I did, but if you haven't figured it out, I'm not amazingly social, so I'm not sure. Am I the asshole here?
I'm honestly impressed that at 19, this OP already knows that Budweiser sucks.
Yeah, I
When
mean, he's
when I was
super.
19, I would just drink anything.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I love Bud Light back in the day.
I still drink Bud Light. I don't care. It's cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a drink in 5 years, but I'll still drink Bud Light. I mean, that's water.
This podcast is brought to you by Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Bud
Um,
Light, the drink of disappointment.
this is a really weird situation. It's also just weird that they're 19. I don't know if that's some Canadian shit or
Yeah,
what.
I
Australian,
assumed
maybe.
that they were in Europe, but that's 18. I don't know why I thought that.
She said she was going to have some people over and wanted to know if I would get the beer. So she doesn't directly invite him, but it's kind of implied that he would be invited.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like you can't even sacrifice an invite to the person who's getting you beer for your party. Get over yourself.
Yeah, I mean, how, like, this guy isn't particularly social, but is he a nightmare person? Like, who cares if he's there? I mean, give me a break.
So crazy.
There's a lot of cattiness in high school that's sort of like you don't want to be associated with certain people, even if you perceive them to be in your, like, lower social ranking. And I guess, this
Completely.
guy's, yeah, and so that's probably what this is.
To me, this
Extremely
is like a
immature.
dumb teen, not even teen, like a like a dumb super bad outtake or some shit like that.
Cut, director's cut.
Yeah. Someone didn't
Yeah,
make
this
it.
scene doesn't really do it for me. It's just kind of a pissed off guy slamming a door, but I'm happy we shot it. Alex K writes, NTA, that hurt my feelings just reading it. I wish I could offer you a hug. She very deliberately used you.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something insane about doing this to someone, like the audacity of it. It's like, it's just so brazen to just use him in this way, and like knowing that she was leading him on and thinking that he would be invited.
So fucked up. Honestly, the popular kids are monsters. Nothing good can come out of having that much unchecked confidence in your teens.
No, and none of the popular kids are doing well. I do check on them every hour, and they gotta fucking know I'm beating them, and I need them to know that.
Honestly, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Stephen Jackman, a group classic, if I do say so myself, writes 3 crying, laughing emojis. NTA, they literally tried to use you, and it's something you could get in trouble for. They bug it. They bug it indeed. It's
Indeed.
completely whack. One DM says NTA should have recorded pouring each one out on the ground and sent that to that biatch.
That would have been fun.
It really would have, but you don't really want to do that to grass and your plants.
That's true. The
It's a
grass
little
doesn't
abusive.
deserve that.
I don't. Sarah M writes, you should invite her to this thread so she can see all these lovely people calling her an asshole. You're definitely not the asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any case to be made. It's kind of
No.
like she pulled this. I guess the only argument I can make is like she did something to him, but it had to hurt the whole party.
Yeah,
So,
but they were
like,
all definitely on board, I think. Don't you think?
yeah, they were complicit. They knew the move, and none of them probably said like just invite him anyway.
I said, like, why not just throw him a pity invite? But then I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to stand by that, because upon retrospect, I'm like, why don't you just, like, not use people? Sheesh.
I mean, it's just, yeah, it's like such a basic thing. You just invite him and make him feel good. I mean, it costs you nothing except he's going to sit at this party awkwardly. You don't even have to really talk to him if you want your beer so bad, but it's like, why not
That's
just
so
give him a
mean.
shot? It is mean, but this was meaner. Top Reddit comment, court_in_the_middle, NTA, blatantly. How did she expect this to go? You'd happily go buy her beer and then take it to the party, then leave without partying or drinking your beer? They have to all be a bit cracked in the head if they believe that was ever going to work. I'd take a Snapchat of me pouring that down the toilet before I ever gave it to them. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I hope you could move past what a nasty piece of work this girl, not woman, is. Interesting not woman distinction thrown in there.
Yeah, whatever. They're all kids to me.
Yeah, I mean, clearly these are all kiddos, 19. I guess the general thing to pull here is like, look, if you're going to use someone, don't make them feel used. And really, that doesn't take that much effort or strategy. It's just like invite them to the party and be friendly with them. And
Are we now teaching people how to manipulate people?
The reality is that a lot of relationships can start with quote unquote using. For instance, I have a friend, one of my best friends. The reason I wanted to be his friend is because he was getting a cool synthesizer and I wanted to play with the synthesizer. So was I using him? Like, kind of, but like that brought us together. It was a mutual interest of ours, and it's brought me a long and fruitful friendship. So it's like I think there is something to the fact that like you can use someone and then just act away and like understand that you're like indebted to them in a sense if they're doing something for you or they have something you want, and all you have to do is kind of be nice to them to make up for it and make them not feel used.
I don't think that you were using that friend.
He wasn't my friend when I wanted to use a synthesizer. He became my friend because he had it.
I feel you. I think like let me get to know this guy because he has a synthesizer is like definitely not the same as like let me blatantly unblock this kid who had a crush on me so he'll buy us beer.
I mean, the unblocking aspect is a whole different layer because it's like clearly this girl thinks he's creepy, so he's a weird person to use. Like if you're gonna go block someone, why are you gonna?
She probably thought that he was like still a little puppy dog towards her and was like, oh, I can get him to do anything. And it didn't work. Sucks to suck. I respect this OP for having some self-esteem and taking the beer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he did the right thing. It would be insane for him to just give those beers away. So she paid for the beer,
Or
so
he
he
should
got
have
free
gone
beer.
to the party with the beer and then chugged all the beer in like 5 minutes.
Great that he's had 48 beers. That's a great situation. Then he's gonna
Thank
really
you.
prove himself. He's gonna
Thank
really
you.
prove he's the creep that she thinks he is. But there are situations people do things to attract others into their life. I think buying beer isn't as applicable, but like you might buy a swimming pool and you think, oh, we're gonna have pool parties and stuff, and then people can use you, quote unquote, for your pool, and that's part of what we do. We make food for our friends. We try to bring people into our lives by doing things, and all you have to do to you quote unquote use people is just be kind to them and say thanks, and then they won't feel used. And it's a terrible feeling to feel used. It takes so little to prevent that. So I think there is something to pull from this, even if it's not very ethically debatable here.
You're right. You're right. I appreciate you going the extra mile to try to teach everyone a lesson.
Yeah, what do I know? I'm just a guy who wanted to use a synthesizer in 2011. AITA for taking the beer I bought for a party from which I was uninvited. I think we agree. NTA, and she is.
Yeah, obviously.
Now we're getting to the juice, people. I hear you. You're restless. Relax. AITA for demanding my boyfriend's best mate leave his house after he called my son a cum pet by you, my hyphen boyfriend's hyphen best hyphen F. She was gonna like hyphen out her whole life story in the Reddit.
Yeah, hyphen out the entire scenario in the username.
Yeah, she wrote the situation in the username field. I've been going out with my boyfriend Chris for a year. We are taking it slow because I wasn't sure how my 6-year-old son would cope with a new man in his life. Responsible, I like it. However, last month I ended up homeless and Chris very kindly offered me use of his house. He was at work and his best mate, who I've never gotten on with, oh, it's a very British way to put it. I've never gotten on with you. And I'm distrustful. She's distrustful of Chris because he's a Jack the Lad.
I don't know what this
it.
means.
And he comes with Jack the Lad jokes. They own a small business together and work together, which is the only reason I let his friend in because I don't want to be alone with him. He's rude and misogynistic and very demeaning. I let him in and he took off his shoes. My boyfriend likes shoes off at the front door, put slippers on, and then went into the cellar to get the tools. I was in the kitchen cooking dinner and I had no idea. But my son ended up coloring in with felt tip all of the shoes that were left on the side. My trainers, Chris's best mate's trainers, as well as my Vans. My son is 6. It was a bloody stupid thing for him to do. But 6-year-olds will occasionally have dumb moments, and if I was given a chance, I would have happily rectified it. But when his friend left the cellar, he started saying loudly, "What the fuck is this? What the fuck, man?"
Yes.
I went over to see and obviously realized what my son did. Before I could even open my mouth to apologize, he gave me a filthy look and said, "Learn to control your cum pet." And I was so disgusted by his words, I told him to get the fuck out of my house. He left, and my boyfriend texted me an hour later telling me that although his friend's words were gross, I need to understand that some people won't be so accommodating of my son's bad behaviors. I'm not asking them to be. I would have apologized and bought him a new pair of trainers and disciplined my son had I been given the chance. And that I overreacted by kicking his friend out since he had to leave some tools behind and it slowed down their work. I'm still so irritated that my boyfriend couldn't see my POV. I feel like I'm not the arsehole for kicking his friend out. Why should I put up with demeaning language like that?
Oh gosh, I know child-free people are very strong of opinion. I don't understand calling kids cum pets. Like, then you're a cum pet. Like, we're all cum pets. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I think with the child-free people, they get a little bit. I mean, look, I think it's a shitty identity. Let me say that. If you want to be child-free, then just be child-free. Why? It's like people who define themselves as an atheist. It's like, well, who gives a fuck? So that's what you don't believe. What do you believe, Linda? Get a personality.
I feel that.
Joni C, clearly one such person. She writes, YTA, not everyone has to put up with your crotch fruit. Not true. You're going to have to put up with crotch fruit and cum pets because those are the future presidents of the world and the future society
but
of the world.
I don't even get it. It's like, how I don't understand how like adults can be derogatory towards children because like we were all once children. I know it sounds very stupid when I say it.
Exactly. It's a
like
detachment.
Then you're just a hatched, like you're just a mature crotch fruit. Like, what do you want to say? Like, you're not better.
You're not better than it. And it also is very, like, disassociative. It's like, what are you, an alien? Like, that's how society goes on. We need children to exist.
Yeah, but
Or
maybe
then
we don't need these people to reproduce, which is totally fine. If you're going to be so, like, what's the word? I don't know, bitter towards children, then that's cool. Like, don't have them.
oh yeah,
But
absolutely,
someone
absolutely.
should.
It's a shitty identity, and so that's obviously not the sin here. If your personality wants to be go on r/child free, and I've binged it, so don't come at me. If that's what you want to do with your Saturday, go for it. But I think the real sin here is you don't call a child to their face a cum pet, because that's
Yeah,
insane.
that's so gross and weird. I will say though, like, and again, I don't have kids. I also want to say I am child ambivalent. I'm not sure if I want to have kids. Is 6 too old to be like drawing on shit?
No, a 6-year old is like a
Like
wild
first
animal.
grade.
Yes, but like they still do crazy shit. I remember a time when I didn't even draw on a shoe. I drew directly on like my nanny. She fell asleep. She was like 97, and I covered her in markers, and I gave her a good old paint job, but she didn't find it very appealing.
When you were
It's
7
just
or 6?
I don't know. I don't know when it was. This might have been around the time I got that synthesizer, but
Uh,
I just think that what even if the kid's 10, he's a child. He's a prepubescent child.
no, your kid who's 10 should definitely know not to just draw on people's shit.
Well, but Sarah, it's not your place as someone who's the victim of a child crime, of child vandalism, to insult the child.
No, but
That's
of course, but you could insult the parent. I was just trying to see if there's any merit. I mean, not to his reaction, but I was just kind of wondering.
it really is never appropriate, I think, to insult a child, to sling an insult to the child.
Especially
And
like
I
a
think
weird sexually like explicit one.
exactly. I mean, to call the kid a shithead would be inappropriate, but then cum is sexual. It is. Hot take. Cum is sexual. You heard it here first, folks.
Wow,
Why would
what
you?
a controversial opinion we have
I
here.
know, right? So that's why Chris is a douchebag.
Mm,
I mean,
He's
the
a
best.
Jack, what is it?
He's a
A
jack the
Jack of
lad.
the lad.
Jack the lad.
Jack the lad.
Like,
I'm gonna Google
I
that.
don't understand. I mean, the only thing I could say against her is maybe that she did kind of fly off the handle because, chances are he's a 6-year-old. The phrase "cumpet" probably means nothing to him. So maybe she could have kind of just like played it cool right then. But like, I think she had every right to kick him out either way. It's like, you came
Yeah.
here, you said a sexual term in front of my son, you gotta leave. And I think that you are being childish if you're an adult and a child does something to you and you flip into like this insulting name calling mode. Like, you're literally a man toddler.
A man toddler.
Sarah W. writes, NTA, no one should talk to you that way or about your children that way. It's a kid. Are you kidding me? Fang D, everyone's the A-all here. You are not raising a son to 6 years old without having taught him not to draw on stuff that is not his property. Oh my God. For also not caring about your BS business, your demon spawn for drawing thing that is not his, your BF for not getting the tools himself, and his friend for being mad at a 6-year-old.
I gotta respect that they came for everyone equally.
They really did, but like, I think it's delusional. I don't know exactly the developmental nature of a 6-year-old. Certainly in my mind, children do random acts of stupidity. So the notion that she's a bad parent because her kid did one stupid thing once is like, it's ridiculous.
To me, like, I thought that like drawing on shit, like drawing on the walls was like something you do when you're 3. And like 6, you're in first grade, like hopefully not to be doing that. But I don't know, I'm so far removed from like interacting with children anymore that I can't say.
Yeah, I mean, it does strike me that the average 6-year-old probably doesn't do shit like this, but it doesn't mean your 6-year-old might be a bit of an asshole. I mean, that's fine. Like, that doesn't make you a bad parent. Some kids are unruly. I did acid before I took the SAT. I mean, everyone does shit
Oh
they
my
shouldn't
God.
do.
You did that?
I did do that. I did.
Why?
I did. I did well on the ACT. No, I mean, I look, Sarah. I took acid the day before I took the
Oh.
SAT, so it fucked with me. I wasn't like, let me
I was like, oh
try
my God,
this.
you're not even going to get the 200 points for writing your name.
I know. I wrote someone else's name. It was a whole thing. Elizabeth C. writes, NTA, however, I think this is a good indication that boyfriend and his friends are not ready to be around your kid. Bingo. Sean G. writes, YTA, quote, dude, can you watch your words, my child, please? I'll gladly replace your trainers, but just understand that he's 6. It happens. But instead, you blew up on your BF's coworker and partner in business.
I don't know what more emotional bond there is between a parent and their child. And I don't know what parent would not blow up having their son reduced to a cum pet. I think I'll give OP a pass on this one.
I think OP has a right to fly off the handle a bit at a grown man saying the word cum in front of their child.
I mean,
Period.
it's not even like, I don't know, the word cum is whatever, but just the whole phrase is just strange. And I would be fucking pissed if now I have to then explain what this means because of this jackass.
It's also kind of bashing her for having a child, and since it's
100%.
her child, and that's another layer here, is that it's her child, right? It's not her child and his best mate's child. So there's like a little bit of shittiness of being like, that's your cum pet, not you and his best mate's cum pet. He's kind of
Oh,
shitting on her
interesting.
role.
Yeah.
So it's really a personal attack in that sense.
Yeah.
Top Reddit comment: Shibuya Crow writes, why NTA? So I guess that means you're not the asshole. But this isn't a conversation to have with your boyfriend over text. You are absolutely owed an apology by the friend, and he's owed one and new shoes for the incident. But it's fair to draw a boundary about the rudeness toward your child, and your boyfriend should be standing with you on that matter at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, I want an apology from him. I want an acknowledgement that this is inappropriate. I think buying him the new shoes is a no-brainer.
Yes.
But I think that he has to be the one to say sorry for this and own it. That's just not an appropriate way to act around children. Just because you think they're cum pets doesn't give you a right to treat them however you want.
Be nice to children. Another hot take on this episode.
Yeah, you know, I'm loaded with all kinds of crazy opinions.
Wow, Danny, you're gonna get canceled.
Did you hear? He said cum sexual. He's a unhinged.
Oh my god.
AITA for demanding my boyfriend's best mate leave his house after he called leave my house, right? Oh yeah, Moses is the best mate's house, that's right. After he called my son a cum pet. I think we agree, not the asshole, and he is.
Yeah, you said that real dramatic. I was like, whoa, what's Danny gonna pull out of left field?
Like, yeah, she flew off the handle, but what he did was wildly
But she didn't
inappropriate.
really fly off the handle. Like, I don't think that's that. To me, that's not an overreaction. That is a in proportion reaction.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, yeah, it's not the perfectly polite thing to do.
NTA. Now it's time for everybody's favorite part of the show, listener submissions. AITA for forcing my boyfriend to have an opinion on BLM, Black Lives Matter, for those of you who live under a rock. So me and my boyfriend are both white. We live in a town which is 99% white, a figure far less than the UK average. Are we becoming a UK podcast? Is
I
that
guess.
just what this is? I'm comfortable with that. I like the UK.
Cheerio. I'll work on my accent. It's terrible.
I'll see you down in the tube, mind the gap. To put it into perspective, I've only met about 5 people from my town who aren't white. Okay, that's a little intense.
Wow.
5 total people in the whole town who aren't white. Okay. I have always had strong views about racism and honestly don't understand how people feel that it is justified to be racist. But I also didn't think that there were people in my area, people I knew from school and work, that were racist. I just assumed that nobody would be that stupid. However, since the Black Lives Matter movement, I've had to remove countless people from social media for racist posts, as well as even arguing with family members who disagree with the movement. I'm always ranting to my boyfriend about it because I just get really frustrated with seeing all these posts and hearing how people so close to me feel about this. Last night he showed me a video and I stopped him before it was even over. It was basically a man talking about black crime and how it is higher than white crime, etc. I just explained that even though these figures are true, it does not justify racial profiling, police brutality, and unlawful arrest searches. However, he turned around to me and said he doesn't have a stance on the issue, which really bothered me, because I thought that he needed to have an opinion on an issue so big. He thinks that because the issue doesn't affect him, then he doesn't care. He has very little empathy for anyone unless it is affecting him.
What?
I explained that if our children end up having black partners and grandchildren, then it would be an issue because they would be unfairly treated based on their skin color. He said that if that happened, then he would start caring. I use this analogy off the top of my head. Me. So if a house is on fire 3 doors down, would you care? Him. No. Me. If it keeps spreading and reaches next door, would you care? Him. No. Me. What if it got into our house and set it on fire? Him. then yes, I would care, me. But if you had cared what happened 3 doors down, you could have prevented it from happening to yourself. This is my way of explaining to him that it's important for him to have sympathy and care for other people. For some reason, he doesn't think he needs to care for other people, and he literally doesn't understand why I care about other people.
What?
Sorry for the long post, but AITA for forcing him to have an opinion on something that he doesn't care about.
Wow, this took a wild turn in the second half of this scenario.
Now I'm just like, this guy is a piece of shit. I mean, this quote here of like, he only has empathy for things that are affecting him. It's like, I don't think that's empathy. I think that's just selfishness.
You're just selfish. Yeah, it's kind of like I saw this quote and it's real. It's like, I don't know how to convince you that you should care about other people. And that is what this is.
Kimberly M writes, do you seriously want to be with someone who doesn't think caring about other people is important? NTA. The only way broken things become fixed is when people care enough to fix them.
Yeah, I kind of think if it hadn't taken this whole turn to like my boyfriend is incapable of feeling any sort of empathy, I might have had I might have a different response to this whole situation.
Yeah, I mean that just contextualize it as this guy doesn't give a shit, and I think what the black crime people are trying to do is they're trying to find a reason to invalidate this enormous message. So in their minds, they go, okay, everybody's mad. Literally everyone, almost everyone, is mad about this issue. How could I be smarter than that? You can, and it's no problem really, and there's nothing incoherent about saying like, yes, black crime is a problem. But then if you dig a little deeper and you're like, huh, why do black people commit more crimes statistically? Why might that be? Might it be related to what's going on? The fact
Right.
that black people receive selective enforcement by the police, are pulled over constantly for no reason, are in jail disproportionately for drug crimes. Black people use marijuana just as much as white people, and yet the number of people, black people incarcerated for marijuana is something like 3 or 4 times higher. So, and then people go, oh well, the homicide rate for black people is high. It's like, how is that relevant, Chuck? That means nothing here.
I also don't like that argument because it doesn't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, you can care about when people are getting murdered by civilians, but also not want them to be disproportionately murdered by the people who are supposed to serve and protect them.
Exactly, and I've kind of thought about this, and I've read a few papers. It is actually not very clear why the homicide rate is high, but I actually think, kind of philosophically speaking, and I've thought about this, is maybe it's the fact that when the authorities in society, which are the police, manifest themselves as essentially arbitrary, right? So the notion of justice is corrupt, right? Because your friends are going to jail for smoking pot and they're pulled over randomly and you're essentially under attack by the government, and you have that perception. Well, you might start to think like, well, what is justice? Is justice real? Is life meaningful when I can be arbitrarily imprisoned? That's pretty horrible. That's a horrible state to be in.
Yeah, I've also like looked at statistics just about like how crime has more to do with like proximity than anything else.
Right, right. And there are correlations of crime and poverty, and a lot of these things are related to how black people have also been victims to redlining and other economic factors. So it is strange to me, this mentality, but in this specific situation, it is a shocking thing that people kind of go to, where they don't care about others.
There's so many different types of not giving a shit about others in these days right now, like the people who just like refuse to wear masks in a grocery store and are going completely ballistic in the Trader Joe's checkout line or whatever.
It's fascinating to me, and I think that's been another insight for me in how polarized this country is, because truly it is a sign of tremendous. It's like, how the fuck is a virus a political issue? It makes
Literally.
no goddamn sense. That's how stupid this country has become, where there's two sides on the virus. Literally half the country, it's not even half. I mean, I think the vast majority of people are like, yes, virus bad, mask good, and then this
Right. Virus
sane.
bad, being alive good. And it's like it's so insane to watch people like turn this into a partisan debate and like try to shit on someone's character, and it's like why is someone a bad person because they want to keep you alive? Like, sheesh. Worst case scenario, the mask does nothing. Best case scenario, it helps protect people. It's a piece of cloth. I don't get it. To me, it's not a huge ask, and I've said this before.
It really isn't. Yeah, and on this note, it's sort of like if your impulse is to hear a black person be like, "Yeah, I'm afraid of police, like it's a problem." And then you go, "Well, black crime." It's like, "What?" That's you're not hearing them.
Yeah,
You're
it's like a
trying to find a
defensiveness.
exactly. So I think people really need to get out of the polar and I don't think we have. I don't even know. I think we're preaching to the choir here because I know our listeners are very smart people. Rochelle H says, NTA, get a new boyfriend. This is an opinion on coffee creamer. It's about people's lives.
Yes.
Whisper M, YTA, he doesn't have to have an opinion on every controversial topic. Leave him be.
So this is actually an interesting point because before it got into the whole like, oh, and actually he just isn't capable of caring about other people, I would have kind of brought up the fact that like OP could have maybe like, okay, let's pretend that the boyfriend just doesn't care about this stuff because it doesn't affect him right now and like hasn't thought about it deeper, but is capable of feeling empathy. This could have been a missed opportunity to actually like try to educate him instead of being like, no, you have to care and you have to believe this right now. However, it's a lost cause, I think.
I don't necessarily. First of all, I don't think this is a controversial topic. I think it's sad that somehow that even flies.
Yeah.
But it's not wrong because it is. But I think there is something a little shocking about someone who can be so detached from society, and I think there's a word for someone who refuses to hear what society is saying and what the majority is saying, and that word is ignorant. That's called ignorance. You are literally ignoring what's happening. I do think you have to have an opinion.
I hear you. I hear you. And I totally agree. But from what I've been reading about like how to actually approach these conversations, it takes a lot of like honestly grace and patience if you want to like try to be effective. And it's hard. And like, you know, I read one article where it's like you have to really first just ask a lot of questions to try to even like wrap your head around someone's point of view. It's incredibly hard to try to change someone's opinion. And you can't do it just by like spouting facts at them, because This American Life did a really good podcast on it, I think. They're just like, the more you approach people with facts, the more they tend to dig their heels in. So you have to like get on their emotional level. And it's like, it's incredibly difficult.
It really is. And I actually pulled some quotes here from an article a friend sent me. It's an NPR article. You can read it at bit.ly/AITA link. But this woman, Ijeoma Oluo, and I definitely said that wrong, but she's the best-selling author of So You Want to Talk About Race. She shares some advice on how to talk to your parents about racism. I think some of this can apply to everyone. I think in this situation, it's tough. I mean, it's tough in every situation because willful ignorance is a thing. People want to just close the book on the subject. They want to watch a video with statistics that are not really related and be like, well, that's it. That's my take. And here's some quotes that she offers. She says, quote, I think it's really important to start first from a place of your own ignorance that you once had. A lot of times when we start conversations about justice and social justice with people who may not believe that these issues are important or understand why there's so much urgency around them, we forget at one point we didn't think there was urgency either.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really good kind of mindset to come in with. It's like I remember when I didn't really think like racism isn't a thing or like reverse racism is real too. And, you know, I had to read a whole book to really get on board and understand more. And so I think that can be a good way to like not let yourself name call or think of someone as a bigot and realize like they are just like you once were in all likelihood.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes on and says, I really wish that my white friends would sit down with their white parents and all their white community members and start talking about the real power that they have as individuals in their communities, in their workplaces, in their stores, and say, I think we all want a world where Black people feel safe, where they have just as much access to opportunity. So what can we do together? And I love the wording of this because to me, this helps kind of just isolate really cleanly, like what it's like to be Black, which is that you feel unsafe when you're involved with the police. And like, that's so sad. The police are supposed to protect and serve. And yet for Black people, they have this different meaning.
I mean, not just the police, you know, you read about like microaggressions and problems in the workplace, and it truly is everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we just did a situation, right? That was last week where this woman had made this totally innocent joke, and yet she feels like she could be singled out and like
Oh,
potentially
right.
fired, and so that's terrible. It's terrible. Like,
Right.
yeah, so bottom line, this guy's a piece of work. I think that the point of this article is really to say, like, have a goal, and the goal is not to be angry and to call names, and to realize that, like, it's actually worth doing right, especially with your parents and people you're close to, not your piece of shit boyfriend,
Mm.
because you can maybe move someone a little bit, move someone an inch, and say, like, look, why don't you don't have to donate to the Black Lives Matter, but maybe you can just realize that, like, it's tough out there. It's tough out there for Black people. They live in a much more difficult world, and if you can just get them to maybe acknowledge that, that's a move better than just screaming that they're a bigot or a Karen.
Right. I mean, like, the whole phrase that everyone's been saying has been like, do the work. And I think, like, part of it is like we live in this like instant gratification society, but it's like you have to realize that it's work, and it's not like a one and done thing, and that's it. Like, you have to accept it. So if you are committed to doing the work, it's not just like, oh, this is a one-off thing. I'm going to yell at my racist aunt and then great, I'm good.
There's really no point in yelling, and I am a yeller. I'm trying to get better about it. I get amped up, Sarah,
I mean,
but
it's again, it's like hard not to yell at people when when you're emotional about something. It's hard not to get emotional. I just mean in a general context, like there's not an easy fix.
and it's especially difficult in our polarized world. I really don't feel. I guess the question is so weird. AITA for forcing my boyfriend to have an opinion on BLM. I don't even know, really, like, forcing someone to have an
You like
opinion.
can't do that.
Yeah, okay, you
Like, you
can't. It's
just
like
can't.
kind of yeah, that's true. It's impossible.
But I do
It's
feel like saying, like, if he's already kind of indicated he's not super on board or doesn't completely grasp, and you're standing there saying, no, this is what I believe and you have to believe it, I don't think that's particularly productive.
Right. I don't think there's any assholishness here, but I think going along with the facts thing, I don't feel that this analogy is necessarily a good way to approach it.
Well, this analogy was telling because it's like, oh, you just don't give a shit about people.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's true.
shit.
The analogy reveals that this guy is just a total piece of shit, and
Yeah. Like, get
you can't,
out. Run.
yeah. But I think the personalization can be important, and taking a very human approach rather than focusing on facts. I'm wondering how, like, anecdotes will do with people, and convincing them and being like, look, this is a real person's experience.
Yeah.
That's a bit more persuasive than just looking at numbers. I don't have the answers. Nonetheless, I can't really call them for OP. I don't,
No.
like you said, what'd she really force? She was frustrated that her boyfriend is ignorant and unempathetic. AITA for forcing him to have an opinion on BLM, NTA, and he is.
Yeah, I feel like she'd be the asshole if she stays in this relationship.
Yeah.
Like, how can he care about you? I don't get that. That's what would get me too. Is like, anyway, I'm getting derailed.
Absolutely. It's when someone is able to isolate themselves from all these voices, how can he reasonably be expected to listen to her, especially when she's already saying he's unempathetic? I mean, this guy is he's a piece of shit.
It's a yikes.
It's a yikes. YTA yikes. YTA. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We beg of thee, please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. And please subscribe to our Patreon if you want more episodes, more good times, and great oldies. Just kidding. There's no oldies. That's a radio station. But just to give you a little taste, we're recording now AITA for having pot cookies out in the open in my own home.
Ooh.
AITA someone else's garlic bread. Wow, it's like the pot smokers bonus
I'm hungry
episode
now.
here. And AITA, if I keep a bike I bought on Craigslist that was originally a memorial for a dead biker. And you could list all those on the Patreon. So there's a bunch of juice there if you want some juice, people. I bought a ghost bike.
Oh my God.
Get ready for it in the Patreon.
I feel like I need to start submitting AITAs now because you've done it multiple times.
Well, I'm more of an asshole than you.
That's probably true.
All right, guys. We'll see you next Monday morning.
Bye.